Welcome to this video coverage for round 8 of the Sinquefield Cup. Yes, this tournament has reached round 8 and it's pretty easy to tell how many points the tournament leader has, because Caruana has them all 7 points that are possible. And this tournament basically is reduced to the question, can he continue this streak and even beat the world champion a second time to reach 8-0. Yeah, this was the main game of this round, of course, but still, it's all 3 games to look at. And I'm going to start with Aronian against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, MVL. Let's see what happened. Aronian knight f3, and we get a very rare opening here on the top level, at least. d6, pretty interesting move actually, that can lead to some less explored lines. d4, and he went knight f6, so probably this way ready to transpose to some more usual grounds like the King's Indian after c4, g6. Like this, for example, we could transpose to the King's Indian. However, Aronian played knight to c3, an interesting move. The idea is simply to play e4. Why not? Yeah, black does not have anything great to prevent e4. He went knight bd7, e4, e5, and we have reached the Philidor's defense via a very unusual move order. But nevertheless, it's a normal Philidor's. An opening that is sometimes a bit underestimated. Maybe it's a fairly solid choice. Black definitely does not have, let's say, huge problems in the opening. It's probably somewhat better for white, but nothing terribly special. Yeah, Aronian now played the most aggressive line possible against the Philidor, g4. Yeah, this looks a bit wacky if you have not seen it before, but it is definitely playable, invented by Alexei Shirov some years ago. Yeah, the most principled move here, and I also think simply the best move, is to take the pawn, which MVL didn't do. He played g6 after some consideration. Probably he didn't really expect to land in this opening and needed to somehow, yeah, play this over the board. Of course, he has some knowledge, but it's not like he was super prepared, I believe. Yeah, the capture after this bishop c4. White has some quite substantial pressure on black's position. The rook here on g1 is simply preventing bishop e7 from happening, and knight g5 is in the position, so black must play h6, and after that white normally goes with the capture on e5 or moves like queen d3, This is the general development plan, and white is simply saying, okay, I have enough pressure here. How do you ever develop your king side and get your position sorted? It's especially difficult to play in a practical game. In analysis, black often seems okay, but it's difficult to play. Okay, but g6 was played, and now g5, knight h5 was played, and bishop h3. This is a new move, it seems. It has not been played before. It puts some pressure on the center by maybe threatening bishop takes d7 at some point and taking on e5. Bishop e3 is more normal, but okay, this is certainly playable. Black now took on d4. Yeah, this pressure had some effect. And now black went with h6, which is maybe a debatable move. Maybe. It's interesting. The idea is that after the capture, and this was not played, that after the capture here, the queen has got this this additional possibility. So let's say black plays knight e5, just to show the basic idea. Then
check.
Black suddenly has this big check coming. So white cannot easily expel the knight with f4, yeah, from e5. Yeah, taking is, I don't think, a good idea anyway in this stage. Aronian played very interesting move. He took on d7. Looks a bit weird to somehow, let's say, develop black with this, but it has a concrete point. After the recapture, he went h4, therefore keeping the pawn on g5 for the moment, which makes black sort of question himself. What are you doing with the knight on h5? Yeah, this can never really return. And how do you handle this space? Lack of space on the king side. Yeah, he went bishop e7 in this position, which does not seem to be sufficient. A very interesting move here is the move c5, which looks really ugly at first, leaving this gaping hole on d5, but it has a very concrete idea. If we look at this, we see that this is not that bad for black at all. He's got bishop g7 coming, queen e7 and long castles. This is the idea. And black here, I think, has pretty decent chances in this position. It's not, it's nothing particularly dangerous. Alternatively, black also could consider to prepare long castling in other ways, like with, let's say, c6, queen e7. But I like c5, an interesting move. Yeah, bishop e7 now I think was clearly insufficient, and we see why. White took on h6 now. Bishop takes h4, bishop e3. Yeah, and here black simply does not have a satisfactory move to get long castles prepared. You obviously cannot castle short anymore. This is far too dangerous with the pawn on h6, the h-file open. Yeah, he went c6. Alternatively, this move looks very normal, but it's not playable at all. Knight f3, double attack here. Knight d5. And here, and first you think, okay, there's some stuff hanging on the white side as well, but rook takes h5 with the idea to play knight takes f6, winning the queen is ending the game immediately. Queen e7 isn't possible at all, and he went c6 to in some other way prepare long castles, but this was punished with the very powerful move knight f5. Yeah, using this knight on h5. Black really does not have a good reply. He captured with the pawn. Yeah, if you take with the bishop, alternatively, white recaptures and now simply threatens to take on a g6 here. So let's say queen e7. So yeah, white can capture or play a queen move to castle long. Let's say here, this queen e3, I'm sorry, I overlooked that. Queen e3 is threatened, so we need to do this first. Let's say castles, and then we can decide to take, there's even queen g4 coming. Yeah, this is a disaster, really. Knight f5. He took with the pawn, queen takes h5, bishop f6, and long castles. Yeah, white's position is far too powerful. Black now needs to get the king out of the middle as soon as possible, and this is what happened here. And now you don't even have the time to play a move like bishop e5. You simply don't stand this type of position. Yeah, also note that white has the h pawn, which is super dangerous. A very, very bad position. He went with this, bishop takes, queen e6. Yeah, here's one critical position. Here you can argue that maybe Aronian's move is not technically the best, but it still preserves a huge advantage. If I read this correctly, he said afterwards that he had considered to play a move like king b1, just let's say keep the position as it is and improve from here. One big point is that black can never really take here because of queen a5, which is surprisingly powerful. Queen c7 mate, and well,
checkmate.
That's not much better. So here black needs to give up the queen to avoid mate. Next move or move after that. King b1 is maybe just from a technical point of view better, but e5 is just strong. It makes sure that those those bishops are traded, and black's counterplay is completely nipped in the bud. He cannot really do anything now. After h7, this h-pawn is paralyzing black. So white has an overwhelming position. Note that he is not any material down. It's just good as it is. Rook e8 and queen f7. Yeah, around here you can look for improvements for white, as it really looks like black is on the ropes. The capture is probably still okay, but maybe a step in the wrong direction, because taking the pawn somehow opens up this possibility that black might get it back. And you could certainly argue that white has all the time here to improve. So let's say moves like king b1, a3, those improving moves, they are certainly possible. Black cannot do much here, really. Another point after this could be like king b1, a3, to try to do something with the c3 knight, which is at the moment mostly looking at squares that are controlled by black, like this. And white could try to improve this slowly. He took, however, rook e7, and the real one problem comes now. Here white had a choice, could play the check on g8 or return with the queen. And he went with this check on g8, which in a way you always want to play. It looks cool to put the queen on this controlled square, but it seems that queen c4 here was still very strong. If we check this, black cannot take here, to start with the easy stuff, picking up the rook. So it keeps the pawn on the board for the moment, and still gets ideas in like knight d5 and so on. This was a possibility. Note that after b5, white can take. Yeah, as after queen takes,
check,
queen g8, we have a different situation. Rook e8, queen g7. This is surprisingly strong for white. Yeah, there are ideas like, ideas like that. If black plays this, there is this move threatening a rook e6. Queen c4 had some very strong points and still would have preserved a very big advantage.
Check.
After this check, however, and king c7, matters are not clear at all. The problem was that Aronian has based all this on the next move, and it's not working. However, I think alternatives don't convince as well. The move queen g8 simply didn't help much. He went with rook de1, and with this move he simply overlooked a tactical little detail. Black now, could just take the pawn. Yeah, not reacting to the attack on the queen at all. Yeah, other moves don't work. I mean, like he could capture with the other
check,
rook, but stuff like that, of course, is very
check.
It's very clearly good for white. Yeah, here the queen and pawn are completely paralyzing black's rooks, and what white will do is whoops, and resigns. Black has no way around that. Just to win. So this was not possible, and it's simply that he had overlooked something with this move. Here it's it's really funny. White has no way now besides what he played. You can easily lose with moves like that, of course, like here. White needs to take here on h7, and then black took here, here, and suddenly we have equal material again. And I mean, okay, we had equal material also before a couple of moves ago, but the h-pawn is simply gone, and here it's there's simply not much happening. This is a completely dead position. It's a bit weird that that for instance stockfishing gives black an advantage. Not much, like 0.3, but there's simply nothing going on. White is never going to lose this. and we are
check, check,
we had some more moves, but a draw agreed in this position. Yeah, a somewhat typical game here for Aronian in this tournament. He had streaks of very good play, and then some really bad mistakes due to bad shape, maybe also bad health shape. Okay, let's look at Nakamura Topalov next. Also a game of two players that don't have a very great tournament, but Topalov he had won some games, and it has a bit at least recovered. Okay, let's get ahead. We surprisingly got a Berlin defense, which maybe could have been expected in the game Caruana Carlsen, and there we didn't have a Berlin, just to get good news across for those looking forward to watch the game in this video and haven't seen it before. Yeah, the Berlin here, Topalov has played this, but never with any great success. However, he went for it in this game. Yeah, this time Nakamura is going for the endgame.
check,
The Berlin Wall endgame. Yeah, this is one of the many setups that Black has. It's really a maze of lines with knight to e7, bishop d7, h6. All kinds of things are playable. We get a fairly normal position. One idea, by the way, of knight e7 is exactly this regrouping, getting the knight to g6, sort of untangling a bit, and maybe allowing, under the right circumstances, to put the bishop on f5, or simply to play bishop e7 to get a bit more of harmonious setup on the king side. Note that what sometimes can really be forgotten, Black has played king d8 and king e8. He can never castle. h6, king h2. By the way, if Black could castle in this position, he would be simply better. The problem really is that from a structural point of view, or this is maybe the wrong word, but the somewhat imperfect coordination of Black's pieces due to the lack of castling rights is really the reason why White has anything in the Berlin, if he has anything at all. But when it's something, it's based on this fact. Yeah, okay, we get a pretty normal position, I guess. g4, it seems to be a relatively a new idea here. This idea, quick g4 coming. But it still seems like a fairly normal position to me. h5. But I must admit that I'm really not an expert on this opening. I mean, I had played it a number of times actually as Black some years ago, but it's really such a strategically complex opening that I really cannot say that I know it too well. What seems clear that in this position Nakamura went for knight e to g5, and it seems that this is not a very successful move, but only due to Topalov's very strong reply. You could argue that this looks like the only move anyway, and this was my initial reaction. Bishop c8, yeah, what else? Looks like Black needs to do this anyway. You don't want White to take on e6. But the big point of this move is far deeper. The thing is, probably knight e to g5 was played with the intention to go e6. Can only guess, because otherwise, if we see in the game, this does not have any point. This, however, is not good at all due to bishop d6 check, king g2, and now the very strong move f6. That's a great concept. White is just invited to jump to f7, and if he does, Black will take on g4. Recaptures, and now bishop b7. This is just very strong. Very strong. White now, if White captures now, look at this position. Black is an exchange down and has a knight on h8. Looks very weird, but this is a strong bishop if you ever want to see one. This is a super strong bishop. The pin, in connection with the other bishop, makes sure that this knight is never going anywhere. And black is just intending to build up pressure on this knight. White cannot move here in this position. There is knight g6 to h4 coming, knight g6 to e5. Black is winning here. This is not just a compensation or anything. Black wins. Give it to an engine. It's minus 1 point, 1 point to minus 2. Black wins. But this is not easy at all to see beforehand for a human player. So very well played here with bishop c8. Yeah, Nakamura maybe now recognized that all this was not working. And he just played a normal move. And yeah, the knight on g5 is simply pointless piece. You have to retreat it somewhat later, and it does not make much sense there. The general thing here is that, well, black has the two bishops, as he always does in the Berlin. And white does not have much to show for it at the moment. His structure with knights on f3 and g5 is not very promising. Very often you want to play f4 f5, for example, and this is very hard to achieve. You simply have badly coordinated pieces. While black gets in this break, and this means that he will open up the position even more. Captures. Now we get to this position. And it's very well known, if black gets this opened, yeah, getting rid of this kingside space disadvantage, and he can open up the position for his bishops, then he normally is already better. The bishops are simply powerful, and of course it looks like this is 2 against 1, and here black has a double pawn on the queen side. But the piece activity, especially of the bishops, is too powerful. It's a very difficult position for white to defend. Yeah, rook h1. This was maybe an additional inaccurate move. The problem is, after this, maybe Nakamura wanted to give the check at first, but this does not lead to anything after king e6. King is perfectly safe there. If you look at this position, we attack here and on d3. Excellent for black. He just retreated, or put it back, let's say, and now it continued. What Topalov wants to do, use the light squares. The light squares are weakened because the light squared bishop is exchanged from the get-go, and yeah, white has no active play at all here. It's simply a terrible position, and Topalov plays a perfect game here. Really, there's only one little point where he could have played better. Other than that, it's simply all the best moves. Yeah, g4 now is also weak. Black has gained a pawn. Almost, yeah, this is very logical development from the initial problems that he had. Yeah, black now can activate all his pieces. 2 bishops against 2 knights.
Check.
And here's the only little inaccurate move that Topalov plays, but it's not substantial. He's winning in any case. b5 was a little bit more accurate, as it prevents knight c4 altogether, and you can just push the c-pawn after that. He instead captured here, which after knight c4, b5 takes leads to a winning rook endgame, which is yeah, a win is a win is a win. The other thing was a little bit simpler, but I guess a win is good enough. Just 1 point to earn in a chess game. They continued a bit.
Check.
But here we have a situation where simply black's position is too strong. It is the pawn, but it's also the activity. Black's king is invading, and white has no compensation for that. Yeah, here, if white takes on d6, king f2, is a very well-known rook endgame, of course, with the f-pawn promoting. Yeah, we have the this is Lucina position, I think it's called in English. In Germany, we call it building a bridge later. I will definitely do that on the channel at some point with when I do basic rook endgames. Yeah, this was played in d5, and yeah, here Nakamura resigned the game. There is really no point with also f3 coming, and white will lose the f-pawn in the long run. Yeah, a very good game by Topalov, pretty much without any mistake. Yeah? Just one little inaccurate move. Yeah, it seems that Nakamura really yeah is in bad shape. Yeah, what can you say? The round the round before, he had this pretty terrible loss against Carlsen where he was lost out of the opening, and here it seemed that this idea that he came up with king to g3, knight g5 was simply backfiring and leading to a pretty unattractive yeah, endgame, yeah, middle endgame. Yeah? This is sometimes a middle game, called a middle game without queen, so because all other pieces are on the board. But it was really a very unpromising position, and he got very nicely outplayed by Topalov. Okay, so let's look at the main thing of this round. Caruana against Carlsen, the 7 out of 7 guy against the world champion. Okay, we have Sicilian. Very positive development, seeing a good fighting opening. It was in a way to be expected that Carlsen does something on the active side. He had announced that he wanted to try to win the game, which makes lots of sense. Of course, I mean, it makes sense in any case to try to win a game, but considering the development of this tournament, with a win, Carlsen could make it a little bit more bearable, let's say. Yeah, the Sicilian, but it was hard to predict the following. Aha, the accelerated dragon. Yeah, not a very common choice at top level, especially in this move order. We sometimes see the accelerated dragon with this move order. For example, this was played in Carlsen against MVL earlier in the tournament. The move order seen here is not, or not move order, this is the original move order of the accelerated dragon. This isn't seen very much at top level due to the line that Caruana is playing now. The well-known Maroczy bind with c4, taking space and preventing black to play d5 basically ever. And this is a very solid line for black as well. It's not like black is in terrible shape here, but it's normally not very attractive to top players as you have little room for activity. It was a bit surprising that Carlsen went for this. Knight f6, knight c3, d6. Yeah, this is one of the principled lines. What black wants to do here is to take on d4 and get the queen to d4. If white goes here, it's a mistake. There's knight g4 coming, and white is not coordinated well. You don't want to take on c6, for example, and something like this is downright awful. White basically has knight c2 here. Interesting move. Bishop e2 or f3. And f3 was played by Caruana. Very interesting choice. It has some points, and we see some of them in the game. Castles, queen d2. All this is very normal. White's setup always involves this f3, not always, but almost all of the time, this f3 move. He sets up the center, makes it difficult for black to do anything like e6, d5 is basically impossible. Yeah, here black has a choice. He can try to get active on the queen side with moves like a6 and later a possible b5, or he can play what Carlsen played. He went with a5. This idea with a5 has gotten popular in recent years, but normally in another move order, or let's say a very similar position. We should look at this because it's important. This is a very comparable line. If you look at this, it's the same position, but here this is a bishop on e2 and not the pawn on f3. And here a5 has turned out to be a pretty interesting choice for black. The important thing is, if white now goes b3 to prevent the idea of a4 gaining space, then black just takes. Yeah, we don't have f3 played. And in the game, this wrinkle has led to the fact that white can play b3. So we can avoid black playing a4. What black wants to do ideally is to get in this a4, queen a5. Yeah, get this space on the queen side, and maybe then bishop e6, rook c8. Black's not better here, but this is considered to be a slight achievement for black if he gets in this push. And now b3 has prevented that. Black, however, can still play a4, and Carlsen did, but now white has b4. It's very important that the f3 pawn is always covering e4, so that knight takes e4 is never a possibility. It turned out that when I was looking at the game, I didn't know when I was watching that this all had been played before, and yeah, not with particularly great results. To be honest, I think that this is not a very great position for black. He went bishop e6, rook c1, knight d7. Yeah, it's one way to try to get some counterplay against the c4 pawn. The big problem is white has a space advantage, and what is black doing to oppose that? If white is given lots of time, he will simply yeah, expand slowly, or sometimes not so slowly. Here with f3 being played, even those h4 ideas come into consideration. Let's just look how it unfolds. Bishop e2, knight b6, and now knight b5 was played. Interesting choice and a new move, it seems. There already was a game with knight d5, which also looks perfectly normal, and let's say after something like this, white certainly is a bit better. He's got a good space advantage, c4, d5, possibilities to play c5 at some point, maybe even right away. It's not a stupid move. And here white is definitely at least slightly better with his space. The whole opening choice by Magnus is a bit puzzling, because it looks fairly unattractive, to be honest. Maybe this f3 move order wasn't in his focus when he prepared. Yeah, knight b5, however, was also a very interesting move. It keeps more pieces on the board. The idea is to put the knight on a3. If black now would have played rook c8, looks very normal, then you can play the knight, oops, to a3. That's not a bad place for the knight. It keeps c4 securely protected. And yeah, the black configuration on the queen side is really not making so much sense. If you consider that in the long run, the knight on b6, it always needs protection by the queen, and white may play, let's say, castles, rook d1, bishop f1, queen f2. We're tickling the knight. Where is it going? The whole situation is really a bit problematic for black. You don't have any active idea. Maybe f5, but this is also notoriously weakening, like the e7 pawn and the e-file. Not very good. I must admit that I'm a bit biased, because I have played the white side of this opening so often, and I don't know, I have a score like 80% or something, even against good players. So I'm a bit biased, as I say. Okay, a3 was played to prevent knight a3, and yeah, here knight d4 was played, bishop d7. Want to keep this piece, and now Caruana really went for the most aggressive way to go about it. He also could have just castled with I think convenient advantage. He went h4, really showing that he's not in there to play timid chess. So h4, h5, we want to mate black. Okay, and well, h5 is a pretty logical reply to prevent the immediate h5. Probably should be played. Yeah, and now, really, g4. Why not? Yeah, white is using this big space advantage to even expand on the king side. Black does not have any play against white's king in the center. There are tons of pieces around it, and black's king gets opened up. I think this is just very dangerous. Black now captured. What else? And went e5. I think this is probably necessary to do to get some sort of play going. We see what play. I mean e5. Yeah, white now has a choice where to go with the knight. He went to b3, which is probably strong. Knight b5 was also possible, after which black, however, can take and play d5. This is maybe not so attractive looking in comparison. Note that a move like bishop takes b6 here is really awful. Takes, let's say, what does white do? Take. Then all of a sudden black invades on the dark squares. You absolutely never here can take on b6 and give up your huge defending bishop, looking at all the dark squares. However, h5 would have been possible, still with a good position for white. Knight b5 was also possible, but he wanted to keep this on the board, I guess, and also maybe have knight a5 coming. Now bishop c6 was played. Bishop e6 was also possible, but also, I guess, a bit better for white. Yeah, here after bishop f3, Carlsen went f5, and this was the idea why he put the bishop on c6. You want counterplay on the diagonal, and yeah, what a wild position. Yeah, out of this relatively quiet opening, they reached this mess. Yeah, Caruana now captured and went to a5. Just a very strong play. Now black is really in some trouble. What should he do? If he takes on e4, it is fairly simple. White will pick up those two pawns, and with it the game. Yeah, there is no counterplay really. White wins. What else is there? He could have thought about this exchange sacrifice, but ultimately this shouldn't be sufficient. And we also have the h pawn running down the board. It's an exchange still. He went with f4 and bishop f2, and now knight a4. This is probably the toughest defense. Now captured on c6, b takes, and short castles. What a move! Short castles. Yeah, this came to a big surprise. It came as a big surprise for the spectators and commentators, and I also think that I'm a bit stunned why short castles was played. It looked far more natural in a way to play a move like rook g1 or let's say h5, king e2. Yeah, some move that basically keeps the king in the center, but he went short castles after a move like, let's say, h5. It's not really dependent on one single move. White is having a fantastic position, really. He's got long term the two bishops, a weakness on d6. Black's king is exposed, and probably you will get this attack even increased. It will be more dangerous as it is developing. Very, very difficult for black. After castles, it seems that black gets at least a playable position again. c5, b5. Okay, so this structure now has been frozen, and here it's a matter of timing. What black wants to achieve is he just needs to keep this structure, getting the knight to b6, let's say, and the bishop on e7, then all this is not so dangerous. He's got a decent defensive position. The problem is, however, after bishop f6, king h1, that here you need to be precise. And now Carlsen made a mistake. It turns out that knight b6, what he played, was an imprecise move order. It has one very big drawback. He should have played rook a7, and this is still fairly unclear, this position. Check, maybe king h8. And yeah, black keeps this protected, and also he has this idea. A totally difficult position. The computer gives white a pretty substantial advantage. Wants to go rook g2, but this is very murky and could have gone either way. It's good for white, but very difficult to play. By the way, black couldn't capture here because of check. And this, and now rook h2 will be deadly. Knight b6. Yeah, knight b6. And now we come to the decisive moment of this game. It looks fairly natural now for white to attack the d6 pawn. Rook d1. But what rook? He went rook cd1. And this turns out to be a mistake. After rook fd1, however, white was basically winning. It's just like that. d6 hangs, and black must cover that. Yeah, and now white has a very strong move. Bishop takes c5. The idea is that after d takes,
check,
queen g2, you win the queen. And yeah, and here black is lost. There is simply no defense anymore. The c pawn is gone. And with it, the whole structure. Black must play some move like king h8, let's say, and then white simply drops back and comes with c5 or still rook g1, those kind of ideas. It's just this important pawn was getting lost. Rook fd1, and you can really tell it like that. Rook fd1 was the 8-0 move. Black has no defense there. Knight b6 was really giving white this chance, but Caruana played rook cd1, which is in a way a good sign. He's human. And now, after king h8, which simply steps out
check
of this, after king h8 now, c4 hangs really, and gives black the counter attack that he needs. If white now is not taking on d6 and playing a slow move, I don't know, something like that, then black has the time to cover his weakness here, and then with rook g8 continue in the same way that I had shown before with rook a7. So white basically needs to take everything else, and doesn't make any sense. So it was traded, and knight c4. Yeah, and after rook d5, knight e3, black really had just about enough play to keep the draw. Yeah, we now get opposite colored bishops. Bishop e2. Yeah, white here definitely does not have any substantial chances. After rook takes, for example, black captures on h4. And here the e-pawn is also a source of counterplay. Yeah, note that, let's say if white is going for a move like that, you can still lose. It's really the typical thing with the opposite colored bishops. Bishop e2 was played to prevent any of those ideas, and now black took here and traded rooks. Yeah, that's the simplest way.
check
Yeah, this is where you want to be. The bishop on b6 is active. It protects the e3 pawn, which is always the counterplay the counterplay source, and white really has no way forward. The king is blocking this, the bishop is blocking this. Nothing to do. Here the game was agreed drawn. So at the end, Caruana didn't manage the 8-0, which would have been, I mean, okay, here even 7-0 is beyond any words, but it really was possible. He had this, let's say, let's call it a match point here when he went rook cd1, rook fd1, would have probably sealed the deal to get the second win against Carlsen. Yeah, he clearly is struggling with his openings. I mean, what else can you say? He had trouble in some games, which is not new in a way, but but also you would have thought that, well, he should time over time should improve his openings. But again, he got into trouble. I mean, this position here is really unattractive, and in a way should have been part of the preparation. If you prepare the accelerated dragon, you should prepare the Maroczy. And it's not clear. I mean, this cannot be a position that they really wanted to have. So this is a bit mysterious. Okay, but a very interesting fighting game, which you even maybe could have looked at in more detail. But I'm a bit limited in time today, I must admit. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the coverage here for the 8th round. We have 2 more rounds to go. I mean, of course, the tournament is sealed for Caruana now. He's this 3 points ahead with 2 rounds to go. So it's about rating points, prestige. But still, I expect interesting chess. We had very interesting games, although in the whole tournament. It's very little uneventful draws or boring games. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching.